Make a habit of empathy, to recognize ourselves in each other.
My name is Miki. I'm one of the founders of BayNVC, and I've been teaching nonviolent communication for about 13 years.
How did you get started with NVC?
We're three sisters, and one of us lives in Israel, and she discovered NVC there, and she told us about it, the two of us that live here. And then we started taking trainings, and then the three of us went to an intensive training together. And around that time is when I started getting really jazzed about it and chose to become a trainer. I would say that empathy is a very unusual stance of where you make yourself available to really see the world from within another person, but without actually having to feel what the other person feels. So you still remain you, but you remain you in the other person. And so that gives you kind of like a capacity to stretch yourself and have compassion and see the world from a different vantage point without losing your own.
And if you described it as a physical sensation, when you're empathizing with somebody, what does that feel like?
It depends on what the context is. But sometimes I am empathizing with a person who is in great distress, and they are coming to me because they want some healing and relief. So then there can be a kind of like a sensation of a kind of like a poignancy or a sweetness, a lot of tenderness for the kind of suffering that this person is in, that leads them to choose to seek out support. That would be one context. Then there's another context where I may be in a conversation with someone and we have very different viewpoints about something. And I am entering an empathic space with them in order to come to a place of more commonality and understanding and finding out what we have in common, what is underlying their position that I disagree with, that brings us towards our shared humanity. And then the sensation is one of kind of like expansion and more of a relaxing into connection. So it's different things depending on the context. I don't know if it's a metaphor, but it's kind of like the same thing as like when you take heart cells and you put them in a petri dish, even if they're far from each other, they're going to start pulsing in the same rhythm. So that could be a metaphor of like each human being as a heart cell in a larger organism called humanity, and that if you align yourself with empathy, then it starts having the same pulse, the same rhythm. A favorite teaching moment, I don't know that I can say the favorite teaching moment, happened recently where it was in a workshop. There was a person, and it actually relates to empathy. There was a person that had a question. He said he didn't understand an activity. And instead of getting into the question, we just took some time to stay with his discomfort about bringing the question forward to begin with. And through that and through very gentle, careful, slow, empathic presence with him, it came to a place of recognizing that he has a deep-seated belief that the only way that he could matter is through achievements, not through just his being a human being that is alive here. And so just this way of slowing down and staying in empathic attunement with what was coming up for him moment by moment, we got in deep connection with a deep longing of his to matter, to just be part of the human tapestry. And it was delicious in particular because 3 close members of his family were there, and they were all supporting him. So it was a rare moment where I knew that whatever changes he was making, and he was making rapid changes in front of everybody's eyes, that there would be support back home for him to continue the process. That's one moment. Let me tell you another moment. There was a man who said that he had a lot of regret for the years that he dedicated to work instead of being with his loved ones. And so we ended up creating a role play in which he went back in time to when his daughter was 2, and somebody was playing his 2-year-old daughter. And they were doing a role play where he was hearing her express her pain. And he was in a lot of pain about his choice, but he was able to stay with the daughter in role play based on what really happened, that his daughter had said to someone when she was 2, "Mommy and I live here, but Daddy lives at work." So he stayed with her in empathy despite his pain, and there was something really amazing about seeing him stretch to be able to be with her and hear her even though he was in pain himself. And that's one of the great powers of empathy, because it brought a lot of healing to him through being able to hear her.
What are other benefits of empathy, the positive outcomes of living empathy?
So one of the other questions that you have there is, what's a value of yours and how does empathy relate to it? So I want to tie these 2 questions together. So one of my deepest values is to live in a way where everyone matters. And the empathy is an amazing tool for bringing that value about, because so often we get into places where inside of ourselves we feel kind of like pitted out against each other instead of together. And the tool of empathy can bring us back to that place of where everyone matters, because through empathy I get to focus on your experience and your needs and what matters to you, and it brings me back into caring about you. And that is not just a benefit to you because now I care about you, it's also a benefit to me because now I am not torn inside and I have access to my full human heart, and I'm able to hold my values, live in line with my values, and see that it's not either or. So there's a lot more peace that comes from that. That's one. And then overall, it's just reducing tension, reducing conflict, and increasing mutual understanding and a sense of partnership in holding problems.